All right, welcome to your program. If you haven't spoken to me face to face yet, my name is Nick. I'm pretty much the one that's going to be training you and working you through this program. Obviously, you're probably familiar with me from my videos and kind of have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. But the whole purpose of this video is to really give you a deep dive into your training program and the proper ways to work through it, how to get the most out of the program and set yourself up for success to reach the goals that you're going to set out for yourself and that we're going to identify for you. The better you can understand this program and the ideas and the concepts that went into constructing this, the better that you can paint the full picture of what you're going to be doing, is the more effective that you're going to work through this thing. So please pay very special attention to this video. This is debatably going to be the most important video that you watch in this program because it's going to lay the groundwork for everything that you're about to do. If you need to watch this video multiple times to really get a good grasp on what it is that you're going to be doing, please do so. On our first Zoom call, on our onboarding call, I'm going to be quizzing you on your knowledge of this video to make sure that, I feel comfortable enough to set you loose and get to training. So with that being said, expect questions from me. I'm going to make sure that you're locked in from day one. So you need to get yourself there mentally and make sure you're ready to go. If you have not recorded your onboarding video yet, please do that prior to our first Zoom call. You would have received instructions for that on the first time that you signed into your application. You should have received a Google Drive from me at this point. If you have not, please ask me to send that to you, and then you can go ahead and populate that drive with your onboarding video to prepare you for day one. It's really, really, really essential that you understand this program from start to finish. You understand how everything works. You understand the way that I've designed it. That way you can completely place your focus on improving and training and getting better. We don't want to leave any questions as to, hey, what should I be doing or how does this work? If you have any questions like that, please, please, please watch this video again. If you have questions that come up throughout training, go ahead and refer back to this video to get an idea of how things work. If you've done that and you still have questions, that's when you can go ahead and ask me. But if it's in this video, I'm probably going to tell you to go back and watch this again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into the training program. So this is going to be the calendar or the overall structure of the program as a whole. Now, when we hop on for our first Zoom call, one of the first questions that I'm going to ask you is going to be, hey, what does your schedule look like over the next 4 to 6 weeks? Is there any time that you're going to be out of town? Is there any time that you're going to be away for tournaments? So we can start to move the schedule around to fit into what you have going on outside of the program. So come prepared with the answer to that question. The next question that I'm going to ask you is, how is the health of your arm? Some guys are finishing up season. Some guys are in the middle of season. Depending on where you're at, is going to kind of dictate the frequency and the intensity of your throwing. At the end of the day, this program is completely designed to teach you the mechanics of the throw, proper mechanics of the throw to not only throw harder, but decrease your pop time. The focus of this program is not on, maximizing our effort or our output with our throw. By no means am I trying to burn out your arm. Instead, I'm trying to teach you proper mechanics. I'm trying to teach you proper feel so that you can be more consistent and drop your pop time in the process and be able to get a little more out of your arm naturally. Again, not trying to blow out our arms, more just trying to teach you about your throw and give you the information and the drill work to understand and practice these concepts as you work through this program. So the first thing that you need to understand about this program is, for simplicity's sake, this program is broken down into 4 weeks. Just because the initial structure of the program is 4 weeks does not mean that it's going to take you 4 weeks. I would say the average amount of time that a guy takes to go through this program is about 4 to 6 weeks. That's when you include scheduling changes, extra time needed to get video and retest pop time. Most often, this program is not going to work through just a straight up 4 weeks. It'll often get stretched to, 6 or 8 weeks to fit into your schedule and, allow proper time for rest and all of those things. But for simplicity's sake and for the purpose of explaining this program and getting you to understand how it is and why it is designed the way that it is, you need to think about this program in 4 weeks or 4 separate sections. What you're seeing in front of you is not going to be exactly what your program looks like. One of the first things we're going to do on that Zoom call is discuss your schedule and discuss, what an optimal way to go about this program is going to be for you. But the way the program is designed is it's technically 4 weeks, so quote unquote weeks. Each week of the program is going to have a separate topic that you're learning about and then training and then getting tested on. So each of the 4 weeks is going to build off of one another. Just because a given topic is a week long in the program doesn't mean it's necessarily going to take you a week. It could take you longer. So if I ever give you extra drill work or encourage you to redo a week, don't take it as offense. It's more just I'm trying to get you to understand the concepts one layer deeper, or I feel comfortable moving you on to the next week. So when you look at this program, obviously there are 4 separate weeks. And like I said before, each of the weeks is going to follow a separate topic in the throwing sequence. And throughout the course of a week, all of your drill work, all of your training, all of your learning resources will be tailored towards your topic for the week. So the way that I need you to think about this program is this. In my mind, there's a difference between a program and a course. In my mind, a program is like something you would get from, a weight trainer or somebody who's training you in the weight room. A program probably has an exercise and then sets and reps. There's not a whole lot of depth to a program outside of just, hey, this is what you're doing. This is how long you're doing it for. The difference between a course and a program is obviously a program doesn't have as much depth, whereas a course is going to have a lot more depth. Think about like a course that you would take in school. Chances are you're going to learn a topic through study. You're going to work on that topic through practice or homework or drill work. And then at the end of that topic, you're going to get tested on your knowledge or your progress. The way that I want you to think about this course that you're a part of is just like any other course in school, where I'm going to teach you a topic, you're going to practice it, and then you're going to get tested. If you pass the test, you get to move on to the next topic, which is going to build on the previous topic. The cool thing about this is not school. I'm not here to bore you. Instead, I'm going to be teaching you something that is more exciting and obviously you want to be here for. And what I'm going to be teaching you is the throwing sequence. So when I say the words throwing sequence, it's very important that you understand what is the throwing sequence. Within the word throwing sequence, there is the word sequence. In my mind, I go to sequence of events. Okay, what is the definition of sequence of events? The definition of sequence of events is the order in which something happens. You think about the sequence events of you getting out of bed in the morning, right? You open your eyes, probably check your phone, put your feet on the ground, put some clothes on, right? Like these are all happening in order to allow you to work towards something, right? So if your motive is eating breakfast in the morning, first you got to open your eyes. Second, you probably are going to check your phone. Third, you got to put your feet on the floor. Fourth, you got to put some clothes on. Fifth, you got to walk to the kitchen. Sixth, you got to start cooking some food in order to get yourself towards that goal. So our goal in this program is decrease our pop time and learn how to throw harder, right? So we need to understand the sequence of events that are going to happen in order to make us successful at the back of the sequence, right? In order to decrease our time and throw harder, we need to understand all of the steps that go into that. What this course is designed to do is to teach you all of the steps of the sequence of your throw to second base. In order to allow you to be more consistent and decrease your pop time and throw harder, you need to have a very deep and high level understanding of every step in the sequence, how these steps affect one another. And you really need to do a good job of understanding these concepts and then practicing them and then testing to see if you've implemented these things correctly. So as you're working through the program, this is your focus. Our focus is the throwing sequence, learning it from the ground up, step by step, learning how it all affects one another, and then mastering these movements in order to get us towards our goal. So the way this program is designed, obviously this is 4 weeks. Again, your program is not necessarily going to be 4 weeks. We're going to make adjustments on that first call. But for the simplicity of explaining this program, I'm going to use the structure of 4 weeks so that you can understand the way that it works. So in each week of the program, you're going to be learning and practicing a step in the throwing sequence. Before you can even start practicing the throwing sequence, you need to understand, okay, what is the throwing sequence? What are the steps in the throwing sequence? You will get all of that information here in this first learning module. So this one is called Learning Module, Intro to the Throwing Sequence. What this video is going to provide you with is a high-level understanding of all 4 of the steps in your throwing sequence and what you're going to be training over the next 4 weeks of your training. And how your drills are going to be specifically tailored to each step in the sequence, how all of these steps in the sequence are going to be building off one another. So that will all be contained here in this first learning module. But for now, until you watch that video, I will tell you what the steps in the throwing sequence are. Step 1 is our lower half. So it's everything that happens as that ball is coming towards us. It's the way that our lower half is setting up our throw. It's the way that we create momentum. It's the way that we create direction. to get our throw going, to get our body going, to create momentum, to create force through the baseball. So this is everything that happens before the ball hits our glove. It's our pre-transfer movement. Some call it a cheat move, right? This is all that's happening before the ball even hits our glove. Before the clock even starts with our pop time, we can be manipulating our throw without sacrificing any time and really putting ourselves in a good position to move quick and move efficiently once that ball hits our glove. So again, the topic of week one is going to be the lower half and actually setting up our throw to work efficiently once the ball hits our glove. In each week of the program, you're going to have a learning module that is specific to what you are learning that week. So underneath this intro video that I just explained, you're going to see a second learning module that is basically going to be a deep dive on your topic for the week. As you may have already guessed, the topic for week one is the lower half. So what this learning module is going to cover is your lower half. It's going to be how you create direction. It's going to be how you set up your throw. So all of that information is going to be contained within this video here. So again, these learning modules are very important. They're debatably the most important part of your week because they're setting the stage for everything that you're training. They're setting your understanding for that week. They're setting your focuses for that week, and they're giving you a full picture understanding of your throwing sequence, why you're training it, how it applies, all of that good stuff is going to be contained right here in these learning modules. What you're going to see is at the start of every week, you're going to have new learning modules. So if the modules in this first week were an intro video and then a module specific to your first week, what you'll see in your second week is going to be modules that are specifically tailored towards the second step in the throwing sequence, which is your transfer, right? So after the ball hits our glove, after the ball travels to us and the ball hits our glove, once we've begun to create momentum, the next step in the sequence is how the ball hits our glove, how we transfer, and how we rotate. So step number 2 in the throwing sequence is our transfer and rotation week. To give you an idea of how these modules work, what you'll start to see in week 2 is you'll start to see these that say the word recap. So basically what the recap videos are is they're taking everything that you learned in the previous week and they're tying it into what you're about to learn in the upcoming week. So for example, this first recap that you're going to see in week 2 is tying in everything that you learned about your lower half. It's tying in everything that you learned about creating direction and momentum in your first week. And it's going to be tying it into your transfer. It's going to be tying it into how well you let the ball travel, how efficiently you rotate with the ball. These recaps are always going to tie the previous week into the upcoming week. Underneath that first recap video, you'll see another module specific to what you're training that week. So again, week 2 is our transfer week. This module is going to be specifically designed to get you to understand how the transfer works, how to make it efficient, how to do it the right way. All of that information is going to be contained in this video right here. Continuing forward, what you'll start to see in week 2 is this third module that will say remarks from Nick. These third modules will contain information that I found to be important when I was recording this program. The information in these remarks from Nick video are not always going to be perfectly in line with your program, but these will contain extra information that I thought was valuable enough to include in the program at the time that I was recording it. So that gives you an idea of what the modules for the first 2 weeks look like. And then to give you an example of what week 3 looks like, you click on the first one, you'll see again, recap. So that's tying week 2 into week 3. Underneath that first module, what you're going to see is a module specific to what you're learning that week. So scap retraction. This is our separation, right? How we create tension to be applied into the baseball, right? So this is going to talk about the importance of separation and retraction. All of that information is going to be contained in this video here. Underneath that is where you're going to see the remarks from Nick video. Again, extra information, but please make sure that you're watching these videos. And then, for example, week 4, what you're going to see, of course, is a recap. So tying week 3 into week 4 is going to be in this video. Underneath that, you're going to see a module that's specific to what you're learning that week. So rhythm and timing. Week 4 is entirely focused on the rhythm and timing of your throw. After you've learned the first 3 steps in the sequence, we're going to be learning how to make sure that these are happening at the right time with the right rhythm in order to maximize each step in the sequence. So please have a good understanding of what the learning modules are for. This is basically your study information. This is basically how you're going to set the stage. It's basically how you're going to understand what it is that you're training that week. right? So everything that you need to know for the week is going to be contained within these learning modules. It's very important that you watch these multiple times, take notes on them if you need to. The better you can understand these, the better you're going to practice your drills. The better you practice your drills is the faster you're going to progress. And that is ultimately the goal. That's why you're in this program. So as a reminder, week 1, lower half, creating direction. All of your modules are going to cover that. Week 2, transfer week. All of your modules are going to cover that. Week 3 is our scap retraction, hip separation. All of your modules are going to cover that. Week 4 is rhythm and timing. All of your modules are going to cover that. As you can see, the steps of this program or the weeks of this program are going to go in order with the steps of the throwing sequence, which means each week will build upon the previous week. So until you have a really solid understanding of the lower half and the role that it plays in setting up your throw, you should not be moving on to week 2. If you haven't perfected the movements from week 1, you should not be moving on to week 2. Because at the end of the day, the way that you create momentum, the way that you create direction through your lower half is going to determine how far you let the ball travel. It's going to determine how efficiently you rotate with the ball, right? How efficiently you rotate with the ball, how far you let the ball travel. All of these things that are happening in week 2 is ultimately going to lead to your success in week 3. So if we don't let the ball travel, if we reach, we don't rotate efficiently, we're going to have less time to get to full retraction. And if we have less time to get to full retraction, we're not going to be creating as much tension as we can to be applied to the baseball. So as I'm saying, so as you can understand, each step in the program will build off one another. It is very, very, very important that you have a 10 out of 10 understanding of each step in the sequence before you move on to the next week. If we get to Sunday and you can't tell me exactly what role the lower half plays in your throw, why it's important, how it sets up a successful transfer, all of these things, if you can't recite that to me at a 10 out of 10 level at the end of your first week, there's no sense in moving you on to week 2. At that point, you need to tell me, hey, Nick, I'm right there on my understanding of this week 1 stuff. Can I have a little more time to go over it before I move into week 2? If that's the case, I will always give that to you. I will always give you extra time, but you need to let me know what you need. Obviously, I'm a remote coach. I'm not there with you every step of the way. I don't have a great pulse on you other than what you communicate with me. So moving on past the learning modules. Hopefully you have a good understanding of what the learning modules are and their importance and how they're going to set up your week. Again, watch these multiple times, take notes on them if you need to. Moving on past the learning modules, what you're going to start to see on day 2 and day 4 of the program is our long toss progressions, right? So every other day, there is going to be a long toss progression in your program. Within these long toss progressions is going to be a video that tells you exactly how to be approaching your long toss to get the most out of it. What you need to understand is these long toss progressions are always going to be optional simply because of the fact that guys are at different points in their career, different points in their season, different points in the health of their arm, different goals that they've identified for themselves. And for that reason, I cannot make these days mandatory. These are going to be as needed, and the discretion will always fall on you in order to determine, frequency and intensity of your long toss. But I want you to keep a couple things in mind when you go to determine your frequency and your intensity of your long toss. The purpose of long toss is to get us comfortable with our mechanics. It's to increase velocity. It's to strengthen the connections that we have within our body in order to get us throwing harder and get us throwing more consistently. The way that I want you to approach your long toss is just like any other muscle group that you would train, right? Imagine you're in the gym consistently and your goal is to develop your legs, get stronger with your lower half, obviously get bigger, faster, stronger, whatever your goal is for your lower half. Think about how you would train that in the weight room, right? So if my goal in the weight room for my lower half is to get stronger in the off season, think about how you would structure your weight training plan. How many times would you train legs heavy in a given week? And that is me asking you the question. I want you to think about the answer. If you're training legs heavy in the off season, how often would you really push the intensity and the weight on your lower half? How many times per week would you hit the squat rack really hard and try to walk out of the gym to where you're going to be sore for the next, 1 or 2 days? How often would you do that in a given week? Okay. At this point, you probably thought of your answer. Most times, and in most cases, we're going to train legs one time very hard throughout the week if we're on a solid training plan and we're working towards our goal of putting on strength and getting, if we're working towards our goal of getting stronger, right? So we're going to train legs hard one time a week. If we've done our job and effectively trained our legs hard one time throughout the week, when is the next time that we're going to do legs in a given week? And I'll let you answer that question to yourself. Most guys would say, hey, I'll probably train legs again hard the next week once I've had the time to recover. Some guys will say, hey, maybe I'll wait to the end of the week to kind of see if I want to train my legs again, depending on how my body feels, depending on how I'm recovering, right? If you do decide to train legs again towards the end of the week, chances are you're going to give yourself at least one day to recover. And then the next time that you're in the gym training legs, chances are you're going to be going a lot lighter and your focus is going to be different. Your focus is going to go away from, pushing weight and trying to get stronger. And you're probably going to go a little lighter on the weight and focus more on range of motion and perfecting these movements. So when you go to attack your long toss, I want you to attack it in the same exact way, right? One time during the week, probably early in the week, hey, I'm really going to be pushing the distance on my long toss, right? I'm really trying to see how far I can throw the baseball, really trying to see how hard I can throw the baseball, right? So one time a week, I'm really trying to train my arm. Depending on how well I'm recovering, depending on my game schedule, depending on the health of my arm, is going to determine if I'm going to train long toss, is going to determine if I'm going to long toss again later that week. If the answer is, hey, I'm feeling pretty good, I want to go throw, long toss again, then later that week, I'm going to bump down the distance that I'm throwing. I'm going to bump down the intensity of my throwing, and I'm going to focus more on my range of motion. I'm going to focus more on my movements. And I'm really going to be a lot lighter on my arm if I'm going to implement the second day of long toss in the week. If you've determined that it's most beneficial for you to, hey, I'm going to take a day off of throwing to give myself some extra time to recover, eat enough food, get some sleep, whatever. If you determine that you're in a better case, if you determine that it's a better situation for you to take this day off, then by all means, please do so. That is why I leave long toss days as optional. I'm always going to let you determine the intensity and the frequency of your long toss with a couple things in mind. I'm always going to trust that you're making the best decision for the health of your arm. And I'm always going to make the assumption that you're making the best decision for the longevity of your career. So that means, if I look back on Sunday night and I see, hey, this guy did his learning modules, he did his throwing progression, but he didn't check off his long toss, I'm not necessarily going to care because I trust that you're making the right decision. But if the decision is, hey, I'm being lazy and I'm sitting on the couch eating chips and I should be out throwing, chances are you should get out there and throw. But if the decision is, hey, I've been throwing a lot, with my games, or I've been throwing a lot in the program, and I would benefit from taking a day off, then by all means, do not throw on those days. Like I said, if I check your schedule back on Sunday night and I see that your long toss days are not completed, I'm not necessarily going to care. And I'm not going to say anything because I trust that you're making the right decision. So with those things in mind, that is how you should be approaching your long toss days throughout the program. One heavy day, if you've decided that's what is best for you. And then if you've decided you're going to throw a second long toss day, we're ramping down the intensity. We're ramping down the amount of reps to go a little lighter on our arm. Again, these days are optional. These are at your discretion. These are there. If you need them, feel free to long toss with the program. But if you're getting enough throwing outside of the program, feel free to leave these days unchecked and take these days as days off in the program. So now that you understand the purpose of the learning modules and how the long toss days are structured in the program, we can kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this program. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and zoomed out a little bit so you can see almost what a full day of work is in this program. So we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this program. Essentially, in each given week of the program. So in line with your topic for the week. So first week, lower half. Second week, transfers. Third week, scap retraction, hip separation. Fourth week, rhythm and timing. In line with your topic for the week, you're going to have 3 days of throwing progressions that directly line up with your focus for the week, right? So in this first week, your throwing progressions are going to be on Wednesday, Friday, and then your choice of a weekend day. Starting in week 2, 3, and 4, what you're going to see is, in addition to these learning modules, you're going to have your first day of progression on this first Monday. So your first day of progressions will be Monday. Your second day of progressions will be Tuesday. Your third day of progressions will be on Friday, with long toss sprinkled in on Thursday, long toss sprinkled in. So the schedule will be 3 days of throwing progressions per week, 2 days of long toss per week, 1 day of learning modules per week. And by now, hopefully, you're starting to understand the structure of how these things all kind of fit into one another. So essentially, all that you need to know about these progressions is they're going to be directly focused on your topic for the week. So all of these throwing progressions in week 1 are going to directly relate to your lower half. So if I click on these throwing progressions right here, what I'm going to see is a list of drills with videos that explain every single drill, as well as sets and reps to be followed when you're working through a given progression. Again, like I said, all of these drills are going to directly relate to your lower half, the creating direction, to setting up a successful throw. So that is going to be very specific as to what you're training with these drills. Obviously, we're going to be throwing with that. To give you an example of what week 2 looks like, this is our transfer week. So what you're going to start to see is, hey, I have drills that are specifically related to my transfer progressions for week 2. I'm going to have drills that I need to work through right here. Underneath that, I'm going to see my actual throwing progression. So all of these drills here are going to directly relate to the transfer, to implementing that into our throw. Again, all of our drill work in this program is designed to teach you a feel. It's designed to teach you a concept. It's not to blow out your arm. It's to get you to understand how to move. It's to get you to understand how to make these movements properly. And we're going to train them into your throwing sequence as a whole. So 3 times a week, you're going to have throwing progressions that directly line up with your topic for the week. This first week is the only one that's a little different, because within these first couple days, you and I are going to be hopping on our first Zoom call to make sure that you're comfortable and ready to go before I feel comfortable having you starting to train. In this first week, your first day of throwing progressions are going to be on this first Wednesday, and then you'll have a day of progressions on Friday, and then your third day will come on the weekend. Starting in week 2, in addition to the learning module, you're going to start to see, hey, here's my actual drill work. So in week 2, you'll have drill work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Same thing with week 3. It's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Week 4, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, your 3 days of throwing progressions are your meat and potatoes of this program. These are tailored to get you to understand a movement and to train these movements to implement it into your throwing sequence. So that pretty much sets up a given week of the program. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but to really get you to understand. Setting up the week, you'll have your learning modules. Twice a week in the program, you'll have long toss days. 3 times a week in the program, you're going to have your actual meat and potatoes throwing program. First week, Wednesday, Friday, weekend, and then weeks 2, 3, and 4, throwing progressions are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you can understand a given week. 1 day of learning modules, 2 days of long toss, 3 days of throwing progression. Every single week of the program is going to be the exact same. 1 day of learning modules, 2 days of long toss, 3 days of throwing progression. That will constitute a given week in the program. Again, depending on your schedule and depending on what we determine on our first Zoom call, is going to dictate whether an actual week in the program actually takes you a week, or if it takes you more commonly closer to a week and a half. So a lot of times what we're going to see is, a typical week in the program goes from taking place over, 5 or 6 days to maybe taking place over 9 or 10 days. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll stretch this first week and then we'll bleed that into week 2. So this program goes from taking 4 weeks to going to taking about 6 to 8 weeks. So again, that is pretty much the structure of a given week in the program. I know it's quite a lot to, understand and digest, but hopefully I've been thorough enough and said these things multiple times to where, the concept and the idea behind the program can really ingrain in your mind, and you can have a full picture understanding of, what this program is and how it works. The better you can understand all of that is obviously the faster you're going to progress. So take some time really trying to understand, how does this program work? And essentially, the best way to think about it is the program is 4 weeks long. Just because it's 4 weeks doesn't mean it's going to take you 4 weeks. Each of the 4 weeks is going to have a separate topic that you're going to learn about, and then you're going to train, and then you're going to record video, and you're going to upload it to see how you did. Once you pass that first week, you're going to move into the next week. Again, whether that week takes an actual week or longer is going to be determined on your schedule and how well you understand it. But as long as you understand the actual structure and the bare bones of how this program was designed, it's going to be a lot easier for you to work through it. So now that you understand what a given week in the program looks like and how it all is built into a full program, there's a couple of things just outside of the program, just outside of the structure of the program that you need to understand. The first one is going to be recording video and recording pop times. So the general rule of thumb here is if we have 3 days of throwing progression in a given week of the program, your third day is always going to be the day that you record video for me. So if our third day of training is our day to record video, what you need to know is that is always going to be the last of our throwing progressions in a given week. So in this first week, Saturday, and in weeks 2, 3, and 4, it's going to be Friday. Again, the days are subject to change depending on how we build out your program. But if you can understand that your third day of training is your day to get video, you'll never miss it. And to even take it one step further, what I've built into this program are auto messages. So you've probably at least received 1 or 2 messages from me so far. What you'll be able to understand at some point is, what's an auto message and what is Nick actually typing on the computer. But what you can see is, there are blue bubbles here that are your actual work, your actual training in the program. Underneath those are the yellow bubbles. Any yellow bubbles in this program are going to be auto messages that will be set to come through to you. So what you can see is there's an auto message set for your first day in the program. It's going to come through to you at 5 a.m. your local time, right? It's always going to say, yo, dude, good morning. Today's your first day in the program. And then it'll give you something that I think that you need to know for that first day. Okay, these are all auto messages in the program. As you can see, at the end of every week in the program, so on your third day of progression, I'm going to have more auto messages in here that they can grasp. When you see these, basically what they're going to say is, yo, congratulations, whatever your first name is in the program. Congratulations on wrapping up whatever week in the program you've just completed. And then I'll tell you a couple things, and it's basically going to be reminding you, hey, you need to record your throwing progressions today since it's your last day of those progressions, and I need you to upload it into your Google Drive, which I should have shared with you at this point. If you don't have that yet, please tell me that you need it. Underneath this reminder is going to be some basic instructions on how to properly record your drill work in the program. So what you're going to find is you need to record each drill you need to record each drill that is listed under any section with the word progression. With the word progression. Okay, so what does that mean? Essentially, what that means is I need video on anything in this program that says the words progression. So in this first week, warm-up circuit does not say the word progression. I don't need video on that. Footwork week 1 does not say the word progression. I don't need video on that. Throwing progression, yes, it says the word progression. So that means that I need you to record all of your drill work. I need you to record every single drill to conclude your first week. Again, you will get instructions for the kind of video that I need from you in this message. So you need to refer back to this to understand what I need from you. Again, basic instructions, try to record from an angle. Again, basic instructions, try to record from an angle. And it's going to tell you, hey, I need 3 to 5 reps of the last set of each drill in the throwing progression section. Let me know when you've got it done, right? So let me know once you've uploaded your drill progression into your Google Drive. 3 to 5 reps of the last set of each drill in the throwing progression section. That means that I need you to record 3 to 5 reps of all 5 of these drills here from your last set, right? So if there's 1 set, you need to record that one. If there's 2 sets, you record the last one. I need 3 to 5 reps to see how well you're performing these drills. So again, to reiterate, your third day of progressions in each week is going to be your day to get me video. You're going to record anything in the program that says the words progression. So the workouts that say progressions, I need video on every single drill in that circuit. In addition to recording your drill progressions each week, at the end of each week, so once you've completed a full week of training, you're going to be in charge of retesting your pop time so we can track your progress in the program. Right? So at the end of every week, on the same day that you plan to record your throwing progression, I want you to make a plan as to, hey, I'm going to get out to the field, I'm going to set up the camera, and I'm going to retest my pop time 1 time per week. Obviously, we want to track your progress through the program to make sure that you're doing these things correctly. If you tell me that you're training the right way, but the numbers aren't lining up, that's going to give us a reason to go back and look at the film and say, hey, maybe you missed on this point, or you missed on this point. Let's go back and fix it. And then have you test it again. So just like a course in school, you're going to learn a topic, you're going to practice it, and then you're going to get tested at the end of each week. Basically, your test is getting me your drill progression video and retesting your pop time once a week. I will say with the pop time retest, you have a couple options as to how you go about this. Some guys like to retest their pop time on the same day that they record their throwing progression. Other guys will set aside a day completely to retest their pop time. I don't really have any preference as to how you do this. As long as you get everything done in this program, I don't care how long it takes you. I don't care which days you choose to do it on. I just want to make sure that you get everything done in the order that it's supposed to get done. So a couple options that you have are, number 1, you can retest your pop time on the same day that you get your throwing progression video. So after you finish up your last throwing progression for the week, after you've gotten the video, you can go ahead and hop on the field and test your pop time and send me that video. What some guys will do is, hey, to end the week, they'll record their throwing progression, and then the next day they will go out to the field. With the entire focus of just testing their pop time on that day, just giving their arms a little bit of time to rest before they obviously test their time. So if you want to do that, hey, record your drill progressions on Friday, and then over the weekend, retest your pop time before you move into the next week. That's always going to be fine. The only thing that I ask is that you always communicate with me like, hey, Nick, I'm going to record my throwing progression today, and I'm going to retest my pop time this weekend, or I'm going to retest my pop time Monday. When we start my next week, after I finish all that, I will let you know when that's in the drive. As long as you communicate with me like that, I can make this schedule do whatever you need it to. But if you're not communicating with me as to where you're at, it's going to be very hard for me to do that for you. So again, reiterating to make this very clear. At the beginning of each week, you're going to learn a step in the throwing sequence through your learning module. Throughout the course of a week, you're going to long toss, and you're going to train these topics through your throwing progression 3 times a week. In the first week, it's Wednesday, Friday, weekend. In the second and third and fourth week, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You're going to train these topics 3 times a week. Your third time training that topic is going to be your day to gather video and upload it to your drive. To conclude the week, you need to test your pop time and upload it to your drive. Until all of those things are complete, you cannot work into the next week. Once you have your video, you need to understand where to put it so that it's properly accessible by me and by you. So like I said, at this point, you should have a Google Drive shared with you, and you should have an understanding of how to upload video into this drive. To give you an idea of what a drive looks like, what you're going to see is, these are guys that are just now starting in the program. If I click on Ian here, what you're going to see is he's got a folder here with his pre-program entry throws. Another word for this is his onboarding throws. So before he even started the program, he recorded his onboarding videos and he put them in a separate folder, right? He could have titled his onboarding video, but he said pre-program entry throws, which is a little confusing, but it is the same thing. So when I click on this folder, what I'm going to see is, hey, boom, there's Ian with all of his onboarding video. He's got every angle for me. He's got the behind angle so I can test his pop time. He's got the side angle so we can look at his mechanics. And all of his onboarding video is contained here within a folder that is within his drive. So before you even enter the program, you should be uploading your onboarding video into this folder, right? So it's all there for when we hop on our first Zoom call. As you work through the program at the end of your first week, once you've got your drill progression videos and you've retested your pop time, you're going to also upload that to your drive. So I will give you an example of what a proper drive looks like. I'll pull up somebody who's been through the program. What you can see is our boy Armani down here. He's got all of his onboarding video here. It's all separate, right? This was all uploaded before he entered the program. On top of that, he's got a separate folder for each week in the program, meaning after he concluded his first week, after he recorded his throwing progressions and he tested his pop time, he went ahead and he put them in his week 1 folder. So what I can see is, hey, boom, there's Armani doing his drill work from a side angle so I can see his mechanics. And then there's Armani retesting his pop time so we can see his progress from the first week. This is a completed week 1 folder. This is a completed week 1 folder. This is what it should look like if you've actually done your first week in its entirety. To give you an example of what week 2 looks like, it's basically the same thing, but if I click on this week 2 video, if I click on that week 2 folder, what I'm going to see is, boom, there's Armani doing all of his drill work from the week. So that's all of these progressions from this week. He's uploaded himself doing these drills, so we have them for mechanical analysis. And just as well, he's retested his pop time to conclude his week to see what kind of progress he's made, right? So he worked through an entire week completely and successfully. He's uploaded all of his video. It's all there, and he's ready to move on to the next week in the program. So essentially, that is the structure of the program. Please go back and watch this video multiple times until you have a crystal clear understanding of how it works and what you are to be doing, right? The less time we can take explaining how the program actually works is the more time that we can focus on your mechanics and what you need to be improving on. The more time and energy that I have to spend explaining to you how the program works and what exactly you should be doing is the less time that we're going to have to talk about your mechanics. So the better you can understand this, the better you can understand the focus of the program, it's going to be the more successful that you are in the program. With that being said, there are a couple best practices that you should be implementing in order to get the most out of this program. Every time I have a guy go through this program that gets good results, like let's say I have a guy go from a 216 down to a 19. That's a pretty incredible jump, right? A 216 versus a 19 at a showcase is a huge difference, is a huge difference. The guy with a 216 probably doesn't get a second look, whereas the guy with a 19 is going to be getting a better look, right? So if you want to make these improvements, there are some things that you should be doing in order to stay proactive in this program and make sure that you're staying on top of this mentally as well as physically. Anytime that I have guys make jumps like this, I always ask them, hey man, what did you do to be successful in the program? How did you get the results that you got? The most common, almost every single time, the answer that I get is these guys are going above and beyond as far as understanding and really implementing the concepts that I'm trying to teach them. I have guys take notes on the learning modules. I have guys take notes on the drill videos. I have guys that watch these multiple times. I have guys that go back and review their own footage. The more active that you can be in studying and setting yourself up for success is going to be the better progress you make, right? At the end of the day, we're training you to be a better catcher. We're training you to be a better man, right? You have to be consistent with your study. You have to have a good, strong focus on what you're trying to accomplish, and you have to be willing to do the work that is necessary to get you to that goal. Just because you're in this program and just because you paid the fee to be here doesn't mean the results are guaranteed. If you're not putting in the work, you're not going to get the results, and that's just the truth. So what I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do at minimum, of course, I cannot verify that you're doing this. I'm not going to be checking up on this. This is, something that you have to dig deep and find within yourself if you're actually going to do. But what I encourage you to do at the bare minimum is watch videos multiple times and get in the habit of watching your videos the nights before you have to do them. So that means in a normal week of the program on Sunday night in preparation for your upcoming week, what you should be doing is watching your learning modules. You should be taking notes on these. You should be watching these multiple times in order to have a rock solid understanding of what you're about to train in that upcoming week. Sunday night, you watch these learning modules, get an understanding for what you're about to do, right? In this first week on Tuesday night, you should be scrolling over to Wednesday. You should watch your footwork progression. Watch this video, get an understanding of what proper footwork looks like. Take notes on these if you need to. After you watch that video, click on your throwing progression circuit and go ahead and watch all of these videos here. So all 5 drills, I want you to watch these videos and understand what the drill is, what the purpose of the drill is, and how you're going to train that next day. What is really important to understand is when I recorded this program, I put myself through the program. So I have a live microphone on. I'm talking you through what you should be doing, what you should be feeling, why it's important, how it applies, right? There's a lot of really good information in these drill videos that you're not necessarily going to absorb by just watching that once. So that means you need to watch them multiple times. You need to take notes on them. You need to ask me questions if you have them in order to deepen your understanding of what I'm trying to teach you so that you can progress faster. So the nights before, you're watching your drill video, and then when that day comes, you go out and you train. Once you're done training, you check everything off so I know that it's done, and then you rest and recover. If you want to take some film on your own and if you want to take some film on your own and review it and study it on your own, by all means do it. Compare it to my video. See if you're doing things right. See if you're doing things wrong. Ask me questions, right? Be proactive. And then on Thursday night, in preparation for your second day of progression, you should be going ahead and watching these videos again for a second time, right? So these are going to be the same drills that you worked on your first day of training, but I want you to watch the videos again. Watch these drill progressions again. See if there's anything that you missed, right? Study, 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 and get an understanding. That way, Friday, when you go out to train, you have a new focus. Hey, I missed this on my first day of training. I'm going to work to improve that on day 2, right? Study your video so you know where you're at. So Friday, you train, check everything off. And then let's say your last day of training is going to be on Saturday. That means Friday night, I want you to go ahead and watch all these videos again for the 3rd time, right? By this point, you should be pretty familiar with what you're doing and how these concepts are structured. So I want you to watch them again for the 3rd time. And then Saturday comes, you go out, train. And then in addition to your training, you're going to record your drill progression. You're going to record your pop time and you're going to upload it into your drive. Once you've done all of those things successfully, you've completed a week in the program. This is a good time for you to go back and review your footage, review anything that you maybe think you might have missed in the program, and spend extra time on those areas if you need to. Communicate with me as to what you need, right? I can't stress this enough, but this is your journey, right? Chances are you or your parents paid good money to have you in this program. So I need you to take it seriously because I take it very seriously. I get a very good sense as to if guys are studying their videos, if guys are putting in the work that they need to, when I'm talking to them and when I'm communicating with them. Chances are, if you're not holding your end up of the bargain, if you're not putting in the work, if I can tell that you're kind of half-assing this, I'm not going to be as interested in helping you if I know that you're not putting the work in on your own. If I know that you're exhausting all your resources and you're doing what you need to learn these concepts and implement them, hey, I'm going to be all ears. I'm going to be willing to hop on extra calls with you. But if I get the sense that you're not doing your work, I'm probably going to ask you like, hey, man, realistically, how much work are you actually putting into this? And if, your results are not where you want them to be, let's dive into maybe why that is. Let's dive into how much time you're actually spending on this shit. So again, at minimum, watch your videos the night before, watch them multiple times, take notes, ask me questions, do what you need to do to understand this program, because the better you understand it, the better you're going to train it. And the better you train it, the faster you progress. And that's ultimately the entire focus of this program. We want to drop your pop time. We want to get you throwing harder, and we want you to be more consistent with your throws. So you need to do the work that is required to get you there. A couple of last housekeeping things are inevitably there's going to be time in this program where it doesn't go according to plan. Let's say grandma comes to town or you get sick or for whatever reason you can't train for a given day. You need to understand how simple it is for me to move things in this program. Essentially, all I need to do is drag and drop, right? Drag and drop. So if you ever need a day, hey, my arm's kind of sore, or hey, I'm going to play today. I can't train today. Whatever the reason is, grandma's in town, I can't train. Instead of you just checking it off and telling me you finished, I'm much happier moving the program around to fit your schedule, but you need to communicate with me as to what you need, right? So if you need extra time to rest, if you need extra time to go back over topics, whatever you need, I'm always here. I can always make whatever adjustments you need as long as you communicate with me and as long as I know how far you've gone in the program. So in order to avoid any confusion, anytime you do something in this program, I need you to check off that it's done. So essentially what that looks like is I can see a fresh program here. You see how all these bubbles are not filled in. I have these blue circles and they have nothing inside of them. If I click on somebody who is active in the program and I go ahead and pull open their calendar, what you're going to start to see is, hey, this schedule looks a lot different than the 4-week schedule that I just showed you, right? That's because me and this athlete have discussed what their optimal training load is per week. Some weeks it's 4, some weeks it's 3. That's depending on their game schedule, right? So your schedule is probably going to look a lot different than what it initially does, and that's okay. But what I need you to do is always check off your drills after you complete them. So anytime you watch a learning module, anytime you do a warm up, anytime you long toss, anytime you do a footwork progression, anytime you do a throwing progression, once it's complete, I need you to check off that it's done, right? So I know this athlete has completed everything except for this day, but it seems like they're pretty close to being on track. Maybe they just forgot to check off these days. But if I ever see this, I'm going to be sending you a message and saying, hey, did you miss Friday's workout? Do you need me to move it to something more current, right? Where are you at with your program? In order to avoid any confusion like that, make sure that you're checking off your drill as you do them, right? So now I know this athlete is on Wednesday and they haven't trained yet today, right? Tomorrow morning, I should see, hey, these are filled in. If not, I know where that athlete is at. The way that you're going to check off these drills is if you pull open your app, it'll say things to do today. If you click on one of the drills, it'll pull open a new screen at the top right. It'll say mark as complete. If you hit mark as complete, it'll ask you some information. You don't need to fill it out. At the bottom, it should say save or done. As long as you can get to the end of those screens and mark that exercise as complete, it will fill in this bubble for me so I know where you've gotten to and I know where you're at. That way, when the day comes that you need adjustments to your program, I can see, hey, this athlete is good. They've done all their drills, but hey, they missed these. I'm going to move these over to, maybe this week so that they can still work on them, right? Whatever the case is, I just need to know how far along in your program you are if I'm going to be making adjustments for you. Okay. So very important, check off your drills as you go. Anytime you watch a learning module, anytime you do any type of training, once it's complete, please go ahead and mark it as complete. Okay, and the last thing to cover is going to be our coaching calls. So you need to understand the purpose and the idea behind the coaching call. Essentially, there are 3 coaching calls that are required in the program. The first one is going to be our onboarding call. That first onboarding call will happen within these first couple of days once your onboarding video is in your drive. And once you've watched this video and understand it completely, we will have our first onboarding call where we'll go over your video and your mechanics and make sure you understand your focuses for your training, right? So that first call is going to come within these first couple of days. The second call that is required is going to come at the end of week 2. That means if you haven't done your first week in its entirety, if everything's not checked off, if your videos aren't in the drive, if your pop time's not in the drive, you cannot work into week 2. If you have not completed all of your learning modules, all of your throwing progressions, if you haven't gotten your video, if you haven't done everything that is required for week 2, we are not ready to get on your next coaching call. Once these first couple of weeks are done, regardless of where they fall on your calendar, once these first weeks are done in their entirety, means it's time for our end of week 2 call, right? So let's say your program has been stretched out to 6 weeks. Chances are your end of week 2 call is going to come somewhere down here. Once these first 2 weeks are completed in their entirety, I want you to reach out to me and say, hey, Nick, I've completed week 1. I've completed week 2. Let's hop on our end of week 2 Zoom call. Let's go over my video. Let's go over my progress, and let's identify where I'm going to go with my last 2 weeks of training. Once everything is done and completed is when it is time for our second Zoom call. Until that point, it is not time for our Zoom call. If we don't have your video, if you haven't done your drills, if you don't understand the concepts, then there's not going to be a whole lot of purpose behind those videos. There's not going to be a whole lot of purpose behind those calls. So make sure you get everything done before you schedule out your end of week 2 Zoom call. The third Zoom call that is required will come at the end of week 4. So again, once the program is completed in its entirety, you've tested your pop time in each of the 4 weeks. I have your video from each of the 4 weeks, and you've done everything the way that it was designed. Is when it is time for your end of week 4 Zoom call. That's how we will conclude. That's how we will identify if we need to spend any extra time on any of these sections. And we'll kind of wrap things up there, or make a determination as to whether you need to go back and spend some extra time on things. So again, there are 3 Zoom calls that are required. You will either have a link for these somewhere within our chat, or you can reach out to me directly and say, hey, I'm finished up with week 2, or I'm finished up with week 4. Can we hop on a Zoom call once you are ready for it? Outside of those 3 Zoom calls that are required, this is the offer that I make every single athlete that comes through this program. If you need any extra coaching, if you need any extra video analysis, if you need to clarify any concept, I am always here if you need it, as long as you've completed everything on your end. So let's say you've gotten through your week 1 and your next coaching call doesn't come to the end of week 2, but you believe that you would very much benefit from hopping on a Zoom call before you move into week 2. All you need to do is communicate with me and give me about 24 hours in advance that you want to hop on a Zoom call. Often, I don't take Zoom calls on Saturdays and Sundays. That is not always the case, but chances are, if you tell me, hey, let's meet Saturday or Sunday morning, I won't be available. So ideally, schedule out Zoom calls on any weekday in the program. Those are typically the days that I work. So let's say you get to the end of your week 1, you've recorded your pop time, you've recorded all of your throwing progressions, and you're like, hey, Nick, I'm right there on my understanding of this week 1 stuff. I would appreciate some extra time to go through my video and get comfortable and make sure that I'm on the right track before I move into week 2. I'm always happy to hop on extra Zoom calls. Like I said, as long as you've done everything that you need to and all your videos there, just give me 24 hours in advance. So if on Friday night or on Saturday night, once you conclude, say, hey, Nick, we hop on a Zoom call on Monday. I'm always happy to do so. Just give me enough heads up to make it happen. And we can always hop on extra Zoom calls. Again, this is the offer that I make every athlete that comes to this program. Some guys take me up on it. Some guys do not. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help you. I am your coach, even though I am remote. So if I don't hear from you, if I'm checking in with you and you tell me you're good, then I have no other choice than to assume you're good. If you need extra time or you need extra coaching from me, I am making that offer to you right now. You just got to let me know when is the best time for you to hop on a Zoom call, and we'll make it happen. And then we'll push the rest of your program behind that Zoom call to make sure that you don't fall behind. So that is really it. The program looks a little different, obviously, on the desktop than what you have on your phone. But I think it's important to see the overall structure on the computer so that you understand how it all works together. Again, I know this is a lot of information and, it might all be new to you. So please make sure that you're preparing yourself the right way. Please make sure that, you're understanding all of these concepts and you're understanding how this program works before we hop on our onboarding call. This video is going to be a little long, but watch it 2 times if you need to. Watch it 3 times if you need to. Take notes. Make sure you know what you're going to ask me on that first call so we can spend more time talking about your throw and your mechanics and less time making sure you're comfortable with the program. I'm going to probably quiz you on your understanding of this video. So like I said, be thorough in your understanding of this. That way it's not like you have no idea going into that first call. Okay. Other than that, this is all important stuff that I want to take care of off the bat. That way we can spend as minimal time on it as you work through the program as needed, and we can really focus on your mechanics and have fun. And, the more thorough you are on this, is the more prepared you're going to be and the more loose that you're going to work. And, that's a valuable skill to have in life, making sure that you prepare and do the right things, so that you can minimize, your thinking or your thought, and really focus on the important things. So to reiterate, understand the program, understand this course, understand what I'm trying to teach you and what I'm trying to get across, understand the focus of your drill work and how to make this all come together. And the better you can do that, the better you're going to do in this program. I'm excited to have you. Let's get after it.